Morning, everybody. Again, Mike Anderson, American Independent Marketing, here with you today. I want to thank you for your time. Again, letting everybody know, the late runners, that we are in lecture mode, and as such, we'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation. We would also like you to hit your key in your 2 or 3-digit audio PIN code that's on your control panel so that we're able to unmute you when we get a little farther into the presentation. So we're going to spend some time today talking about Mutual of Omaha long-term care. We're calling it by the numbers, and we're going to talk about their commitment to the marketplace, what the cash product makes available to you, about affordability, about inflation and partnership, and at the end we'll talk a little bit about the fact that we have a dual solution with the critical illness piece. So off the top, Mutual of Omaha, one of the things that we try to do overall is put you folks in a position to be able to help more people. That's why we're in this business. One of the things we've done to do that is positioned you with an A+ rated long-term care company that's probably got the strongest brand out there. And through our relationship with Mutual of Omaha, you have a commitment to make 2 really important things: guaranteed inflation options and day 1 cash available to your client. The hybrid cash reimbursement model that you have available through the mutual product, that's going to flat out outperform any standard reimbursement model that's out there, okay? If you don't believe us, ask somebody who you know has been on claim with a standard product, and then imagine what it would be like to have cash available to do what it is that you need. So now, carrier commitment. So you're asking yourself why the big number 11 is sitting there on your screen. The reason is that Mutual of Omaha, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time blowing sunshine up your pants legs about this, that, or the other. What I am going to tell you something that's just flat out, it's basic numbers, okay? Mutual of Omaha spent a lot of time and a boatload of money working on their processes. And the reason I'm showing you this number 11 is they have shaved 11 days off the typical processing timeline for a long-term care product. That's almost 33%, down from 37 to 26. And this is a really complicated chart here that ends up getting you in the same place. But essentially what they did is consolidated all the functions here with regard to underwriting requirements in one spot with a case manager in charge, what they now call managed inventory, okay? They realized that as they continued down the path, they had to get better at what they were doing internally, and rather than try to fix it themselves, they brought somebody in that was a specialist in this area, and they've arrived at a brand new model that they're using. And again, we've shaved 11 days off what was a 37% or 37-day timeline. They've shaved it down to 26 days average. We're really pleased to be able to make this available, and you will begin, as you continue to write, now that this has been implemented everywhere, you'll begin to see the benefits of this as we move along down the path. So continuing with by the numbers. Well, most of you probably know, but in case you don't, the 40% number here, that's the built-in cash number that we have in the Mutual of Omaha product. Most of you have heard us talk about it a lot. If you haven't, you're going to hear me talk about it some here today. So why is cash king? Well, one of our big producers likes to say, if you don't have cash, you don't have long-term care. And if you really think about it, what you don't have for your clients is the kind of long-term care they're going to want when they go on claim. Cash puts you in a position where you can solve a lot of problems, okay? And among the problems are some of the things that we've listed here: the static nature of policies and the elongated time period in which they have to remain relevant. The reality is we take a snapshot today in 2014, and your clients have to live with that snapshot. If they're using reimbursement, they have to live with that snapshot in the year 2037 when they go on claim, all right? If you've got cash like you do with Mutual, they've got the availability to maneuver around some of that static nature and some of changes with regard to relevancy. Another thing to think about is the quickening of technological advancement and what they will mean. Now, we're obviously in the year 2014, but if you think back just 20 years, and 20 years is the typical lifetime of a policy, and it's getting longer. If you think back 20 years, in 1994, email was not in anywhere near the type of use. It wasn't in broad use, and cell phones were not something that you saw in everyone's hand or pocket or purse on a daily basis, okay? That's the level of change that you're going to see moving forward with regard to technological advancement. Another area where we've seen some very strong early returns, the availability of services in rural areas. In some cases, the simple truth is that it's very difficult to get home care services. This gives you an option moving along, all right? And it also makes, in conjunction with that, makes available a more viable real-world solution when it comes to informal care. Most other carriers, frankly, they are withdrawing their informal care services from the marketplace. Okay, Mutual of Omaha, they just decided they'll make it simple by making the money available to your clients. Your clients can then do what it is that they want to do. All right, and at the end, like I said a few minutes ago, it does make literally the best of both worlds available to you. By the numbers. So now, 2,400. What is the significance of 2,400? Well, that's what we call, it's the price point where affordability lives. As rates have shifted and changed with various carriers, the one thing that hasn't changed is this number right here. That is the average premium that we see come across or come through the door when the UPS guy shows up every day. This is typically the premium that your clients are writing, okay? And since that premium has remained static, that means that your clients, with various adjustments on products and adjustments on rates, your clients have less buying power within that same $2,400 framework. But we are able to bring a solution available to you, and that is in the area of our inflation options. And I brought this next number up, 1%, because the reality is 1% does matter, and we'll talk more in a second about why. But at the end of the day, if that allows your client to get access to long-term care now and presents them with an additional buying decision down the road by virtue of the guaranteed buy-up option, that's a great opportunity. We have agents who have sold 1%. One of them told me that they make their clients pinky swear that they're going to get more inflation within that 20-year window when they can do so. But at the end of the day, that's the client's decision. The key thing is you're allowing them to have something that works for them, and we'll talk about partnership and the partnership availability within this space in a few minutes. But you're enabling to get something that they want. It's partnership approved in a large and growing number of states, and they have an additional decision that they can make later on to get more coverage. So now, one of the reasons that 1% matters, you can see it right here. An average $150,000 benefit, and that's pretty much what we see coming through, is right around $150,000. In 30 years, it increases by a third at 1%, okay? It increases by more than $100,000 at 2%, okay? 3%, those numbers are a little more common. They're the types of things that you're seeing already. And there's some language down here that it's kind of light because we went with a yellow color scheme, but basically what you tell the clients is based on what you've told me. The plan I'm recommending is going to pay up to $150,000 today, and will grow to $200,000 when you reach the age of 85 and are most likely to use your benefit. Okay, that is still really good leverage for them, and it's a level of leverage that they can't find in just about anything else. Okay, significant opportunity, significant numbers. Now, we talked a couple minutes ago, and we're going to talk more in depth now about the guaranteed buy-up option. All right, gives your clients the opportunity to increase their inflation benefits without going through underwriting. All right, They can do it as many times as they want as long as the movement upward on the ladder does not exceed 5% in terms of total inflation. They do have a cap on it that option ends at the earlier of 20 years of policy ownership or age 70, okay? And they can't be on claim or have been benefit eligible in the 2 years prior to making the increase election. And we have a little bit of an example of that coming up here, okay? And again, more and more states, they can buy non-partnership today and purchase their way, or what we call buy into partnership, down the road. The ruling has come down that the level of inflation that your clients have at the time that they go on claim is the level that determines whether the policy is partnership eligible or partnership certified or not, okay? This is one of the things that we're doing. It's all about sales and making you guys comfortable selling less today and allowing the clients to make another decision later. This is the only product on the market that offers this level of flexibility. If you're comparing anybody else's 3% locked with 2% from Mutual of Omaha, in the long run, Mutual of Omaha gives your clients a better opportunity, okay? Now, I mentioned before that we were going to talk about the buy-up example, buying into partnership, all right? So we're going to start our example at age 70, or I'm sorry, at age 60, and as you can see, they buy 1% initially. You can see this here, so I'm going to overview it. At 63, they make a buy-up option at attained age pricing, and we have the details on how you can do that. We're not going to tie up time on the webinar today on it, but we can send you over the math that you can do and so that you can explain it to your partners, okay? For purposes of this example, they make another buy-up option choice a couple years after the first one. Now they're up to 3.5% compound, okay? And then at age 85, and this is one most people don't contemplate, once they've reached the age of 85, okay, they go and they back themselves back down. Okay, they drop back down to 1%. They've gotten all the growth that they feel like they need, and they make a move that reduces their premium as they're a little bit older. Okay, this is a move strategically that most folks don't think about, but it can certainly be a difference maker for your clients along the way. Take a quick pause here. Got a question. The question was about the upgrading from 5%, one of the capped options, like the 20%. You can upgrade within that framework. If you bought 2% compound with a 20-year cap, then you can buy a higher option, but you can't off of 5% compound, which was how the question itself was written, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about the caps here in just a couple minutes. Now, I mentioned before, and this is something of a hot button topic, but I mentioned before partnership. And as you can see from this grid here, okay, this is the current partnership grid on a state-by-state basis. 15 states have approved inflation options. We lost our numbers here, but they've approved it, and they have approved it all the way down to 1%. That's what should be here. When we move this over, we lost it. I apologize for that. That first grid up there should show you that compound lifetime, age 30 all the way up to ages 75 is 1% approved in all of those states, which includes Colorado, highly popular, and Nebraska, another state where we've got a lot of opportunity as well. So I will get a copy of this out to everybody. Since we lost some of the numbers here, it's not quite as impactful as we'd hoped it would be with those, and I didn't realize when we reconfigured this that we had lost that. So also going to take a second here, talk about our capped options. That's what the 10, 15, 20 on the capped options mean, all right? What we're talking about here is your clients, in addition to having all the choices between 1% and 5%, they've got cap choices at 10, 15, and 20 years. All right, that's in addition, of course, to lifetime, and that's available on all of the custom inflation options, which includes, and they all include the guaranteed upgrade option that we talked about before. So if your client buys 1.5% compound for 20 years, all right, within that time frame and the other caps that could potentially get in the way in terms of age, within that, they could buy their way up to 2.5%, 3%, still remaining within that 20-year cap. As was asked before, if they buy 5% compound 20-year right away, they can't do anything more than that right there. But unless they've started with 5%, they're always going to have the option to buy more benefit at some point in time in the contract. Again, subject to the 20-year, age 70 numbers that we talked about previously. Okay.
Mike, we got a question as far as availability in California.
Okay, product is not available yet in California. It's our understanding from Mutual that they are fairly close to having it. We're hoping that we have something either third quarter or beginning of next year. But for those of you that are in California, you're familiar with this, it takes a long, long time to get anything approved there. They've been wrestling with them for some time, and it sounds like they've gotten most of the questions and such that California had. They've gotten those knocked out, and they're moving forward slowly. Appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. And then we'll move forward here one more time. We're going to talk a little bit about partnership and perspective. Okay, New York is one of, we use this as an example because it's one that we have. It's one of the 4 original states. All right, those 4 original states operate in a different partnership space than the others do. All right, and in New York, they have an opportunity that they call total asset protection. And once you exhaust your long-term care benefits, you're immediately eligible to move to Medicaid. All right, the states that are not included in that initial 40, or the initial 4, the original 4, they all use a dollar-for-dollar configuration, which means that you have to engage your long-term care policy, and that $1 of personal assets for every dollar used on claim are protected. The difficulty with that is if you have clients, we'll talk about why New York does it differently, but if you've got clients who buy significantly behind the cost curve, and we've talked about this previously, if your clients buy behind the cost curve, they could be very close to exhausting their personal resources prior to the claim, to the benefits that are available through the long-term care policy, prior to those being exhausted. And as such, they would have no assets to disregard under the dollar-for-dollar. The 4 original states, and we include New York here obviously, the 4 original states all have minimum purchase requirements. In New York, I believe it's $275 a day. So it's a significant benefit that the client has to purchase. They have a 3.5% and a 5% inflation option available, not all of the others. So they're pretty close to the cost curve in other states. For example, Wyoming, a client can buy $50 a day for 2 years with the appropriate inflation option there. We'll say 3% just to make it simple. All right, and in doing so, they have a partnership certified policy. The problem is the cost of care in Wyoming and in most states is such that it would eat up the difference between that $1,500 a month benefit that they've purchased and the actual cost of care before the clients ever get to the point of exhausting the benefits. They're not going to have anything left to protect under this dollar-for-dollar clause. One other stat that we used from New York, because it's one of the few that's done this long enough to have a viable sample size, all right? Their claim stats for the winter of 2013 and 14. They had 4,700 policies, folks that went on claim. Within that amount, 350, or were on claim, 350 had exhausted their benefits and qualified for Medicaid, all right? That means that 47, out of that 4,700, 42, 43 and some, I guess it's 44 and some change. I'm not real good with my math today. Less than 7% of the total pool that we're talking about here were accessing Medicaid. It's also worth noting that in most states, Medicaid's provisions do not allow for home care. if your clients are going to access Medicaid, they're going to be in a position where they have to use facility-type services. And some of them are able to stay home for quite a period of time. They're giving up some level of freedom and flexibility when they do that. So that said, that covers our the base presentation here. So Dave Whalen has joined me. He and I are going to take a second, and we're going to unmute everybody so that we can start moving forward with the questions. I would ask you, if you are listening and you do not have questions, to please mute yourself individually, and that will keep us from having to hear tea kettles and cats and such like that. And once again, almost right out of the gate, we get background noise. So again, if you don't have a question, if you keep yourself muted by hitting *6, we'd greatly appreciate it. We're in the process of unmuting folks right now. So go ahead with questions.
Giving yourself permission to spend money without the anxiety of wondering if it will run out. The first 200 people who call 800-894 Better Life and qualify.
All right, we've got everybody unmuted, but once again, we've got somebody with a television going in the background loud enough that it's going to be tough to hear, so we may have to go back and just go with the good old-fashioned raised hands. So let's give it a shot. Anybody with questions out there, please?
Are not LTCi insured. Guarantees provided by annuities are backed by financial strength and claims paying ability of the insurer.
We gave it a shot. So somebody wouldn't listen. Sorry about that, folks. If you've got questions, please go ahead and key them in, and Dave and I will get them out there for you and help you out. The first one, we do have one here, is about the 2400. Okay. The 2400 has to do with, that's what we call the price point where affordability lives. That's how much folks are spending on long-term care on average. And with changes in rates, et cetera, what it means is that the reality is your clients are getting less benefit for that same amount, because that amount of money hasn't changed. Even as the prices have gone up, that hasn't changed. And that's why we feel like the inflation options that we're able to make available to you, those things are significant opportunities for you to help the clients make a buying decision now, knowing that they'll be able to have that chance to make another buying decision with regard to inflation farther down the road. So thanks for that question. We'll open her up now for anybody else who's got questions. Go ahead and type them in, please. Question about household discounting. Yes, we do have 2 levels of discounting. One is for what we call married one, which is one of the 2 spouses is applying or gets issued, and the other is what we call married both, or I think they call it the partners discount now, because it does apply to partners as well. The married one is 15%. If both apply and are approved, it's 30%. Okay. Also, question with regard to North Carolina and partnership. Some of the states are in the process of negotiating with the partnership entity and the legislature in that state to be able to make partnership benefits available. I'm going to flip back here real quick and take a look at that slide and see if we've got, I didn't recall seeing North Carolina in there, but we really, actually North Carolina, it does have some partnership approval. I will get you the answer on that specific for that state. So other questions? Dave was just telling me North Carolina is approved all the way down to 1%. So it is available. Thanks, Dave. All right, any other questions out there? Oh, we got another one here. The MedSup discount question, I think that was taken off the table when the new product came out back in the fall. Okay, there was also a question about buy-up option. Does the enrollee have to buy up each year to keep the offer available? No. If they move from 1 to 1.5%, once they make that move, they stay at 1.5%. Okay. So there's a question here about using the standard benefit as a flat monthly amount, or is it paid as expenses are incurred? Well, if you're using reimbursement, it's going to be paid based on approved expenses that are submitted. If it's cash, it's going to be paid at the beginning of every month to the client. Then they'll have the opportunity to handle whatever they've got going on in the way that they want to handle it. Cash will extend the benefit period simply because you're going to have months with 40% utilization instead of 100% utilization. All right, any other questions out there? Okay, well, then looks like we pretty much have wrapped things up. We appreciate everybody making their time available. If you would like a copy of the PowerPoint, please shoot an email to me, mike.anderson@whyam.com, and we will get that out. The recorded version of this will be uploaded to our website later today, and you'll be able to find that, review it if you'd like to. So it looks like we have one more late running question. We talked about the, let's get down here. We talked about the underwriting, the claims processing time, or excuse me, the processing, and it's actually been reduced from 37 days down to 26 days on average. So the new underwriting process has not extended anything. All right, any other questions? Email address, mike.anderson@whyam.com. We'll get you a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. And again, the archived version will be posted here later today, and you'll have access to it off of our website probably around midday. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap that up. Dave Whalen, thanks for your help. Appreciate it as always. Everybody else, appreciate you making your time available. Hopefully this will help you out in terms of your ability to use the mutual product and help your clients. We're going to call this one a day. Thanks, everybody. We'll